Welcome to Autosport's look at Le Mans in its centenary year. The countdown's well and truly on, and we are joined by our sportscar guru, Gary Watkins, and someone celebrating the 20th anniversary of the first time he drove at Le Mans. It's our special guest, Anthony Davidson. And thanks for joining us on the video today. Good to have you on after you've had such a busy Formula One schedule.
Thanks very much. Yeah, it's great to be here. The centenary at Le Mans. It was always going to be a special occasion, and I wouldn't miss it for anything. So, although I've just done 2 Grand Prix back to back, like you say, it's a pleasure to be here. And Le Mans always got that special vibe to it. This year already, even though it's only Wednesday, feels like it's picking up that atmosphere even more than usual.
It's the centenary year, 100 years. It's they've got a NASCAR with Jenson Button and others showing up this year. 75 years of NASCAR, 50 years since Ferrari last competed in the very top flight at Le Mans. And perhaps the most important anniversary, 20 years since you first drove that Ferrari at Le Mans. What's it like for you coming back to an event that you no longer race at, but you tell the story for viewers and everyone that is watching you on TV these days?
Yeah, obviously I have lots of mixed emotions from this event. As you say, celebrating that 20th year since I first competed here, and it was a real eye opener back then. I can still remember how I felt arriving at this event. I didn't know much about. I didn't even know the circuit simulation didn't exist back then, so I was learning as I went, and lots of ups and downs around this place for me, quite literally in 2012, my first year with Toyota here, where I ended up breaking my back. So I've been to hospital twice here, but never won this race, but got so close in 2016. So yeah, lots of good, lots of bad memories, but that's this place. So I'm here as a commentator. I can see the race for really what it is. I look at all the different categories out there, and it's nice to see the newcomers to this event, to see and remember how I felt, to see that in their eyes way back in 2003, and then to see obviously the more experienced drivers and them gearing themselves up, knowing what to expect, with all of that anticipation that comes with this legendary event.
Now, Gary, we're looking forward to more track action today, but just following the test, what's your reading on the hypercar class? Because it's not all Toyota's way. Now, we'll get on to balanced performance in just a second with you, but also coming into this event, Ferrari were looking stronger and stronger, even if they didn't get the outright results. And also Porsche putting in a really good showing at the test. Gary, what's your reading of the hypercar class that I think many people's eyes will be watching?
Well, yeah, the pack has been shuffled basically since the final WEC race before Le Mans at Spa at the end of April, which Toyota won again, their third in a row. We were looking at this and thinking, yep, it's going to be a Toyota walkover. Is never the word you should use at Le Mans, but I think if you were a betting man, you'd have put your money on Toyota, absolutely. And I would say the odds were quite short. They've gone out to the odds have gone out, increased quite dramatically to my mind with this balance of performance change. Sorry to bring it forward in our conversation, but it's so critical to what's happening here this week. They've been hit with a sizable chunk of weight, 37 kilos. Suddenly they don't look the dominant car that they were in those opening 3 races, Sebring, Portimao and Spa. So the order has definitely changed. Ferrari were quick again, topped both the sessions of the test day on Sunday, but we've never really doubted the 1 lap pace of that car, the 499P, the gorgeous 499P. But then Porsche are up there as well. Now Porsche have had a pretty torrid time so far in the WEC with their 963, but suddenly they're right up there at the sharp end, and actually the fastest time of the day on Sunday was set by Laurens Vanthoor. He ended up second in the classification, but he actually did a time that was quicker than the best Ferrari time but he lost it to a track limits violation. He went wide at Tertre Rouge. So I think suddenly I'm looking at Porsche and thinking, yes, they're in the game. Whereas before the BOP change and before I knew what they'd learned since Spa, because they have done a lot of testing. Now I'm saying, right, Porsche really is a contender. I get that feeling. I mean, obviously, we're going to learn more over the next 2 days of practice and qualifying before we head into the race. But yeah, I certainly think that we can say that this is not a one-horse race anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ant, how do you feel about how the hypercar class is looking now? Last week we did get that surprise shift to the balance of performance rules, which had meant to be fixed until the end of Le Mans, but it was all based on an algorithm before the season even started, so it wasn't really a moving target. They did shuffle the pack somewhat. Of course, this isn't a spec series or a Formula series where so many things are the same. There's so many different engineering solutions, whether it's a 3 litre, 3.5 litre, normally aspirated, hybrid, all racing against each other. So the rule makers got a bit involved last week. It pleased some and not others. What do you think of that news, and how do you think it might affect Le Mans this weekend?
So my take on it was that Toyota, they've done the best job so far this year. They've had last year's experience obviously to roll into this year. They've clearly upgraded their car quite significantly from last year. Operationally, they seem to be the best. Strategically, they're the best, and you would expect that. They've been doing this since 2012, so it's nothing new to them, and we shouldn't be surprised at their dominance. So we are in a BOP category now, like Gary was explaining. And with BOP, I would always expect it to shift from race to race. That's how I've always understood it. It's such a hard algorithm to understand. It's basically a moving goalpost. I mean, even in a single make category, you have different teams or different drivers performing better or worse. Even from day to day at the same track, you can have different results. So trying to keep up to speed with BOP is an ever-moving target. But one that I think needs to be evolving with the situation. So to have it fixed in place for what I thought was going to be, and everybody else thought was going to be, until after Le Mans, I thought that was a bit bizarre. So in a way, I'm glad that it's shifted. I'm glad that it's changed for this race, because we were seeing, although Toyota were the dominant force, in many ways it seemed to be a bit too much in theirs and perhaps Ferrari's favour. And teams like Peugeot, for example, remember, you can't touch your bodywork when you homologate your car. You can't touch it. There's no Le Mans package, there's no sprint package. Your car is what it is. So technically or aerodynamically, there's nothing you can do to your car when you launch it in this hypercar category now. So you would, if you had no BOP, you would just go through the entire season at a deficit and wave goodbye to an entire year. So that's where we have to rely on BOP, in my opinion. Hopefully it brings teams like Porsche, like you mentioned, who are very quick in the test day, and Peugeot. Hopefully it brings them back into play, and we can have a bit more of a three-way or even a four-way fight. That's really all I care about. I want to see close racing, and if BOP helps that, like we've had in GTs in the past, then so be it. Because if that's what attracts manufacturers to the sport, then it has to be in place. Otherwise, it turns into what LMP1 was. Every manufacturer goes on a spendathon, spending in excess of 300 million euros a year. It's unsustainable. Teams fall out. The championship crumbles as a result. So it's, in my opinion, it's a necessary evil to have.
Now, Gary, can we talk about the other little rules issue around Le Mans, and that is tyre warmers. We saw last time out in Spa a couple of accidents chalked down to cold tyres. Of course, there are plenty of series around the world which don't have tyre warmers, but perhaps they race in slightly warmer climates. Now, the weather is looking good for this weekend and quite warm, but a reversal on the plans to ban those tyre warmers, and they're just kind of leaving everything as is. Am I right in that? And they're just going to let the teams carry on as they were and then look for a ban after Le Mans. That seems like a sensible decision to me. What do you think?
Well, I think it was the common sense move. As it's turned out, it probably doesn't really matter because it's so hot here. Well, so hot for a pale-faced Englishman like me. You know, we were up at 28 degrees last night in bed in my little farmhouse. I was sweltering. So I think the problems that the introduction of the new rule could have created in the dead of night, when it can be very chilly here, on those conditions are not going to be the case. They're not going to be in place, but it was the correct move because, you know, it could have been cold at night, you know, and also there's also rain to remember because, you know, rain tyres like to be nice and hot when they go out on track, and getting, as obviously Ant will tell you, getting temperature into rain tyres is the secret of going quick in the wet. So yes, it was the right decision, but ultimately it didn't really matter because of the temperatures here. And one thing I should point out, that the reversal of the ban on tyre warmers is for this race only. So when the WEC gets to Monza in July, the ban will be back in force. And again, there it won't be an issue because, you know, it's Italy in the summer. But I think at Fuji in September could be a bit different, but the thinking on the part of the FIA and the ACO is that over time the teams, the drivers will get on top of running these cars without tyre warmers. So yes, it was the right decision, but no, it's not going to be a factor because it doesn't really matter.
Okay, good to know. Right, just finish off, and Ant, I want to talk to you about your job this weekend, which is telling the story of Le Mans to all the so many people tuning in, and it's arguably one of the most difficult jobs in motorsport because, yeah, all the eyes are on Hypercar, but also LMP2 and GTE as well. You've driven all sorts in sports car racing, and you know, you probably had more fun in some than others, but you do have that unique perspective on the machinery and driving those vehicles. But now it's your job to try and explain those battles to all of the rest of us at home tuning in. What are you going to be looking for in those classes down from Hypercar, and how to make sure that you also kind of focus on what can be at times, if you got access to things like the timing screens, some really, really compelling racing?
Well, look, you know, this is a huge challenge for all teams and drivers, you know, in all respective categories. Having raced in GT myself, LMP2 and LMP1, which is now effectively Hypercar, as you say, each of them have their own unique challenges. I mean, in the GT car, let's start with them first. You're looking behind quite often. You drive as much in the mirrors as you do looking forward. So keeping your nose clean, staying out of trouble, being lapped efficiently is all part of the game. And it's a little bit of a tweak compared to when I did it. Now you have to have it's a pro-am category basically. So you've got pro drivers, professionals, and then you've got amateur drivers as well. So you have to use the time of the amateur drivers wisely, and they can, from categories that I've raced in the past, sharing a car with an AM driver, they really become the backbone of your performance. You know, you have to know when to use the amateur driver and not put them under too much stress. You have to work as a team together to make sure that you're not setting them out there in the middle of night if they don't feel comfortable. As Gary was just explaining, you know, if the conditions are too cold, tyre warm-up's a problem. You know, lots of safety cars or full course or slow zones or full course yellow zones. You know, you don't want to stress them out too much, and you want to have your AM driver as fresh as possible at all times. So working as a team and having a good strategy is very important in GT. Similar for LMP2 as well, actually, but everything's happening a lot faster in LMP2. You know, you're lapping a good 10 seconds or more faster than the GT cars around this long lap, and it's they're harder in many ways. From my experience, it's harder to drive a car that relies a lot on downforce. They're stiff cars, they're low to the ground. If it's wet, like it seems like it could be for Saturday at least, they're very hard cars to control in the wet because of their low ride height compared to the GT car. So again, lots of challenges in the LMP2 car, and there you're on the attack, and you're also looking behind because you're in that middle class. You have to have your wits about you there. Very close competition in LMP2. Pretty much everyone's on the same chassis, Orica, same engine, the Gibson engine. They're all on the same tyres as well with the Goodyears. So it really comes down to the team performance and the drivers as well, more so than any other category on the grid. So it's always a fun category to watch, fun category to be in as well. And then of course the hypercar that we talk about the most. It's you've got the manufacturers and the huge spend of money there, and it's it's in many ways the most professional that Le Mans gets is the much coveted overall victory with the hypercar category.
Now, we can't let you go before I quickly mention your old mate Jenson Button driving a NASCAR. NASCAR back at Le Mans for the first time in a long time, and alongside Jimmy Johnson, Mike Rockenfeller. It's going to look a bit different, and it's in the innovative class, so it's out there on its own. But Ant, would you fancy having a go in one of these around Le Mans?
Yeah, I would. I'd fancy having a go in any of the modern day machinery, and that NASCAR car, as I've been corrected by an American, so I'm just going to correct you there as well, because NASCAR is obviously the series. The NASCAR car looks quite good fun. It's got huge power. It's got as we would say, an old school V8, but it's obviously it produces that. It's normally aspirated engine, produces a lot of torque from low down. I have spoken to Jenson about it, and he's always got a big smile on his face whenever he talks. He says it's the loudest car, the hottest car he's ever driven in his life. But he's well up for it. He's really looking forward to this race, and so they've had to stick this massive gurney flap on it, if you can call it a gurney flap. It looks like an upright wing that sticks out the back of it. Just to try and slow it down in a straight line and create a lot of drag, because otherwise it'd be overtaking everything down the straights, because that's pretty much what it's built for. So it's an absolute beast, but they're desperate to try and slow it down to make it fit somewhere, I think, in between the GTs and the LMP2. So it's going to be fun to watch. I'm sure it's going to be fun to drive, and it might keep a few people awake at night as well when they're trying to sleep through this event, because I've heard it's pretty loud.
Oh, we can't wait to see that. Yeah, headlights on a NASCAR. Brilliant. Will that be a first for many people seeing that? Now, Gary, before we go, any final thoughts, final words, predictions for this weekend? Gary, we can see that you are there getting ready as the time of recording this to watch some free practice and some qualifying. What are you looking forward to seeing?
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing, that order that we're talking about and where it really is, the test day. As it says on the tin, it's a test. People have testing to do to get through their development programs. I'm looking forward to first qualifying tonight, and then we've got the Hyperpole tomorrow, and then we're really going to see where people are. First qualifying is quite significant because only the fastest 6 cars go through to Hypercar, and obviously there's people will want to be at the sharp end of the grid, but there's also bragging rights, so we are going to see people going for it tonight, and that's where it gets serious for me this evening in that first 1 hour qualifying session.
Well, gents, thank you so much for your time. If you want more Le Mans content, then check out myself on the podcast channel, and we're Kevin Turner, our chief editor, his top 10 series of things like top 10 heartbreaks and top 10 best drivers around Le Mans. One of our guests on today's video has a claim to a couple of those top 10s, actually. So make sure you check out that if you love the Le Mans content. And also keep your eyes on Autosport.com and Autosport magazine when it's out next week for all of the fantastic coverage from Gary and the team that we have there. Thank you so much for watching. If you leave a comment below, we'd love to know what's on your mind about watching Le Mans this weekend. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you like what we're doing, and we'll see you on the next one.